Thank you. So the Parsha is called Korach, and you can find Korach obviously also in your books. There is going to be Korach, the story of Korach, on chapter 16 in the chapter 16 in the book of Bamidbar. And the story of Korach is pretty clear. There is a man which his name is Korach. His father's name was Yitzhar. Yitzhar's father's name was Kehas. Kehas' father's name was Levi. And we know that Levi's father's name was Yaakov. But if you notice on verse 1, it only counts from Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kehas, the son of Levi. And it does not continue. If you read only by Levi, just continue into Yaakov already. No. Why is Yaakov not mentioned? So Rashi brings us from the famous Medrash that when Yaakov was blessing his children, he asked and he prayed to God, please do not have my name mentioned when my great-grandson is going to be involved in a fight of the fight that we are discussing in this parsha. And Yaakov Taki was given his wish, and his name is not mentioned. And the story of Korach is very known, as you read in all these verses, in this week's parsha. Basically, Korach, simply of the simple reading of the verse, did not appreciate the fact that Aaron became the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Aaron's children are the ones who are serving together as priests with their father, right? Which we call in America today nepotism, right? Everything stays in the family. Moshe, Aaron's brother, is obviously the Rebbe, in charge on everyone, and he is with the tribe of the Levites, and they are cousins, right? Moshe was the son of Amram, he was also from the children of Levi, and Korach was from the children of Levi. This is all coming from the same great-grandfather, which they used to join together at Hanukkah parties and Thanksgiving dinner, and sometimes, and suddenly, lo and behold, not separated legally, but there is some family members from one side of the family, one brother, is seemingly getting it all. And this is what he came to complain, even though it was clearly coming by Moses. At this time, Moses was already confirmed as a prophet. Moses was already confirmed that he does not make up his own initiatives. He was the one responsible for the splitting of the sea, previously the Exodus, spending 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain with God. So this is already Moses' position as leader and prophet was already pretty much established. And yet, Korach is trying to interfere and said, no, we want to, I disagree. And he began encouraging others. He was a scholarly man, Korach, wasn't an ignorant. He was very scholarly, very knowledgeable. He had a high position as a Levi, and yet he was able to convince other leaders of other communities and other families to come join him in the revolt against Moses. Moses was not happy. Okay? Enough is enough. And at that time, even though it was clear that the consequences is going to be harsh, Moshe was asking for a unique consequence. And he tells God, you can't have them die like a regular death. Meaning if they die because they get sick and die, or because they get a stroke, or because they get a heart attack, or because they get, God forbid, any other bad illness, then people would not translate it properly. They would think, it's a way of life. You got to do something special. What is something special? So you turn to chapter 16, verse 29. And what does chapter 16 in the book of Bamidbar, verse 29 say? So let's read it inside, and then we'll see what actually happens. Just a second. Yeah.
So is that why he did not get Korach like Miriam did when he spoke against Moshe?
It was not just Saras, it was questioning, it was not just Lashon Hara. It was questioning the whole authority, the whole system, which was so beautifully established. So he says in verse 28, verse 16, verse 28, right? Vayoim Moshe, then Moshe says, Bezot teidun ki Hashem shlochani la'asois es kol ha'maisim ha'ele ki lo milibi. Hashem said that it was not from my heart, meaning I did not make it up. It wasn't my idea. It was God's mission to me. How are you going to know it? So he says, this is going to be the sign. He creates a sign. Verse 29, what is the sign? Im kemot kol adam yamutun eile. Im kemot kol adam yamutun eile. If those die like the death of all men, upkudas kol adam ipoked aleim, and the destiny of all men is visited upon them, lo Hashem shlachan. Then it will be your sign that it was not Hashem who has sent me. I made it up. If you only die because God forbid you got. However, he says on verse 30, Brio Ivro Hashem. But if Hashem will create a phenomenon, Upotzaso Adomo Espio Uvolo Oisom, the earth opened its mouth and swallows them and all that is theirs. And not only swallows them, but Yordu Chaim Shoilo, and it will descend alive to the pit. Then v'yedatem ki niatzu anoshim mo'eles Hashem. Then you should know that these men have provoked Hashem. This is going to be your sign. Okay, I'm looking for something new. It has to be something creative, something unusual. How often do you see the earth opens up and swallows? Doesn't usually happen. Maybe some places in Florida once in a while. Okay, what happens? This is Moses speaking, and as he finishes speaking, the moment he finishes speaking, there was not a waiting period, but simultaneously, verse 31 says, and when he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open. Bativla oisom vesboteim veis kol odom asher la Korach veis kol rechush. And then Korach and everything that belongs to them, everybody was swallowed. Their households and all the people who were with Korach and their wealth, everything is swallowed in the ground. Vayerdu ein v'chol hasholem. They and all that was theirs descended alive. Chaim she'oilo, alive into the pit. But the chasaleim the earth covered them over. Vayoivdu b'techakol, and they were lost from among the generation. That's it. Party is over. What happened to Korach? What happened to Korach's children? What happened to Korach's family? Everything which belonged to Korach, everything was now swallowed alive into the earth. That's it. No more.
Don't forget about the 250 men also.
Then there is, okay, that's a separate story. And then I want to go to the old Parsha. This is the first part of the story. Okay? Story is clear? Very good. Now, before we continue, let me tell you what some of the commentaries say in regard to this unusual death of Korach and his family. Just a second. Okay. I have to go to a different parsha, but we're going to understand soon why. Yeah. So what is officially what we are reading over here? Everything which is the Korach means Kol Adam Asher LeKorach means everything that belongs to Korach, including his children, right? Nachmanides actually says it was his servants, his maidservants, right? The Sforno says those who were pulled after him in the fight, in the argument, those who were fighting Moshe. Rashi doesn't make any extra explanation. Rashi doesn't interpret the verse anything different than, I guess, relying on us, that we're going to assume one who is opening the Chumash and is going to come to this verse 32, he's going to translate to himself, Kol Adam Asher LeKorach means all the people which were with Korach, and assuming that they all died. Not like the Ramban who says it was the servant, the maidservants. Rashi, if Rashi would have in mind that it means something different than what the verse literally says, then Rashi's job would be what? To tell it to us. And if Rashi doesn't tell it to us, it means that literally everything belonging to Korach was actually swallowed in the ground. And the earth covered them. What happens when you're in the ground and the earth covers you? You're on the ground, right? You don't know what happens. There's no one talking to you. But now I want you to turn the Chumash to 2 weeks ago, from 2 weeks from now, since David Schneider is not going to be here. So you have to go to Parshas Pinchas. I want you to go to Parshas Pinchas, chapter 26, verse 1. This is the Parsha that talks about the inheritance and the division of the land. How the land is going to be divided between the different tribes. This is going to be, actually, we're going to be studying it in 3 weeks from now. After Korach comes Chukas, after Chukas comes Balak, after Balak comes Pinchas. Parshas Pinchas, chapter 26. If you have a blue Chumash like I have, it's page 878 in the Hebrew, 879. And again, after the plague, God said to Moshe, to Elazar, the son of Aaron, let's take the census, because we are going to how many tribes they are. So this is what chapter 26 in the book of Bamidbar talks about. When it comes to the family of Reuven, so what does it say? Take a look on verse 8. Reuven had a child called Hanoch, Chanoch and Falu. When it comes to Falu, so Falu is the son of Eliav. Eliav had 3 children. Says verse 8. Nemuel, that's 1 child. I'm looking at chapter 26 in the book of Numbers, Bamidbar. Nemuel was 1 child, Dasan and Aviram. These are the 2 other children. Who is Dasan and Aviram? So the verse says, oh, you know Dasan and Aviram is? Dasan and Aviram, let me tell you, since you mentioned their name, I want you to know that they were actually responsible against the fight against Moshe and Aaron among the assembly of Korach when they were rebelling against God. And you know what happened to them? It says verse 10. Batiftach oretz espia, and the earth opened its mouth. Bativla oisom ve'eskoirach b'moisoedo, and it swallowed them. And Korach, who was their leader, with the death of the assembly. When the fire consumed 250 men. And they became a sign. A sign for what? A sign that be careful, that no one should try to fight over the Keuna. The priesthood belongs to a certain tribe. Comes verse 11, it says, oh, Bnei Korach, the sons of Korach, Loi Meisu, did not die. No. Parshas Pinchas, you telling me that Korach's sons did not die? We just read in Parshas, close the phone to tell them. We just read Parshas what? Parshas Korach. And what happens in Parshas Korach? Everybody was swallowed up. So make up your mind. Are they alive or they are dead? Parshas Korach says, Kol or Anoshim. So we said Rashi did not say anything because if Rashi would have wanted to tell us something, he would have told us. Rashi is allowing us to feel and to understand that Korach's family are all covered by the earth. But the child who learns Chumash, the adult who learns Chumash, comes to Parshas Pinchas, and then he finds out that I made a mistake till now. I thought that Korach's family died. Now I find out. It took me so many weeks. I was already mourning or being joyful in regard to their death. And then I find out, no, never happened. Never happened. They never died. Okay? This is question number 1. The Gemara, the Talmud, in a couple places, in Megillah, in Sanhedrin, Asher brings it in Chumash. The Gemara tells us the following. Listen to what the Gemara tells us. The idea. Says the Gemara, just a second. Oh, the Gemara says that it's written regarding, the Gemara discusses different prophets. So it says that there was a man, right? This is regarding Shmuel. It says, "Vayiyesh echad min haromosayim tzoifim." It was a man, which he talks about Elkanah. Elkanah, who was a man which came, he lived in a place called Romosayim Tzoifim. You know Elkanah was? Elkanah was Shmuel Hanavi's father. His wife was Hannah, the one who did not have kids for a long time. The famous story in the book of Shmuel. So the Gemara, the Tanakh calls Elkanah a man from Romosayim Tzofim, a place called Romosayim Tzofim. And the Gemara explains that it means to say that he came from a Matayim Tzofim. Prophets are called Tzofim. Tzofim means in Hebrew someone who can see far. A prophet is the one who is able to see far. So one of the 200 prophets. And the Gemara goes on about the prophets. It was maybe more prophets, less prophets. But anyway, let me come to my point. This is what the Gemara says in Megillah. Give me 1 second. That Elkanah was Ramosai. Listen to that. So the Gemara says, what does Ramosai mean? Ramah means a high place. The Gemara says, want to know who Elkanah was? Adam haba mibnei Adam, a man who descended from people she'omdim berumo shel olam, who stand on the height of the world. Ramatayim in plural comes from the form of Ramah. What's Ramah mean in Hebrew? Height. Right? Ramat Golan. Why is it called Ramat Golan? It's the Golan heights. Right? That's why it's called Ramat Golan. Ramatayim Tzofi means that Elkanah came from a people who are standing on height. Says the Gemara, Man Minu. Who are they? Who are those people that Elkanah, Shmuel's father, came from? Who are those people on height? Says the Gemara, you know who they are? Bnei Korach. They are Elkanah. Elkanah is a descendant of Aviasaf. Aviasaf was one of the sons of Korach. That's where Elkanah came from. Shmuel, Elkanah. Not only David Schneider is from Korach, a Levi, but Shmuel, the prophet.
He was only a distant cousin. We always have.
You can't be better than
We
Shmuel.
always have some bad people in the family. That we just-
Hello. I'm telling you a Gemara. The Gemara says that Shmuel came from Elkanah and is considered coming from the people of height. There's no one greater than Samuel the prophet. Right? And who are those people of height? It's called Korach. So the Gemara is wondering, how is it possible that Shmuel came from Korach? Korach's children died. So the Gemara, no. Look in Parsha's Pinchas. Don't be like we were 5 minutes ago. Don't just read Korach. Read Pinchas. And when you come to Pinchas, what are you going to see? The Chsiv says in Pinchas, Bnei Korach lo meitu. That the sons of Korach actually did not die. How can you say they did not die? If we said in Parsha's Korach, we're going to read this week that they did die. They were covered by earth. Says the Gemara something interesting. Mokim nisbatzel lohem begehenom ve'omdu olav. A place was set up high for them in Gehenom. Not Gehenom. That's the place of hell. And they stood on it. What happened? So Rashi actually says it in Tehillim. So there's Rashi on the Gemara, there's Rashi on Tehillim too. There's Rashi everywhere. So Rashi says in Tehillim that Korach's son, initially, they joined their father's, their father's revolt against Moshe and Aaron. Okay? In the midst of their rebellion, Rashi says, however, they realize they are folly. They're making a mistake. And then it's when they repented. Right? And then, when the earth opened its mouth to swallow the entire assembly of Korah, and to transfer them where? To Gehenna, God miraculously provided a place of refuge for Korach's 3 sons. Okay? They landed on an elevated kind of plateau within the earth and were saved from death. Did they what?
Didn't they start singing praises to God?
We have in Tehillim, we have Shir Mizmor Livnei Korach, right? The song by the children of Korach. What? Every Monday morning, we say it. So Rashi brings this Gemara. Rashi in Chumash, in Parshas Pinchas later, brings this very statement of the Talmud. And exactly, Rashi is actually repeating the words of the Talmud. Rashi even adds a little. Rashi says, that originally they were in the conspiracy. In the middle of this whole revolt, they had a thought of truth. They had a thought of truth. Truly speaking, that even earlier, when it says in Rashi, actually brings in the beginning of Korach, that one of the ideas which gave Korach one of the triggers, so to speak, to go to fight against Moshe, Rashi says, because he saw in his, Korach was a holy man. Who did he see coming out of his family? Exactly, he saw Shmuel. But Shmuel, like we say in davening Friday night, Moshe ve'Aaron bechoano, u'Shmuel bekoirei shmoi, that Shmuel is actually compared in his spiritual accomplishment to Moshe and Aaron. So then Korach saw, Yachi Bedam, I have my descendant going to be Shmuel, which is compared to, so why am I letting Moshe run the whole show? He didn't realize that it's going to be his children who was going to do tshuva and rebel, that from those Baalei tshuva came out Shmuel. In other words, what Rashi, I guess, is telling us, which the Gemara is telling us, why were the children of Korach punished altogether from the get-go? Why were they swallowed in the ground? Everybody agrees that it was swallowed because it tells in the verse, everybody was swallowed. So initially, everybody was swallowed. Why were they punished? The answer is because their initial stage was involvement in that conspiracy, which was from against Moshe and Aaron. They were part of it. Only later, therefore they had to swallow in the ground. But after all, later they decided, they had a thought of repentance, they decided to regret what is happening. So therefore, they didn't end up dying, right? They didn't end up dying. This is what Rashi tells. But obviously, when you realize that, and you see that they did not die, but at the same time, they had a very funny survival, a very unusual survival. They were already in the ground, and now the ground is supposed to kind of direct everybody to Gehenna, and suddenly there's a little heel, inside the ground, that they are finding themselves being positioned there, while everybody else is rolling down to Gehenna. And that's how somehow they came out afterwards, must be, because they got married and there's children of theirs. And that's how their survival works. And the question is, why did they get such an unusual type of survival? Why maybe they could have maybe be protected by going into the ground, but not cover them with earth, right? Or maybe not even going to the ground altogether. They could have got some other type of punishment since they never continued in joining the revolt against Moshe. So Rashi says something interesting. Rashi uses the words, and the Rabbi is pointing it out. Rashi says, in the middle of this whole revolt, B'sha'ata machloket, while they were in the machloket, in this whole dispute against Moshe, Rashi says, Hireru tshuva belibam. They had a thought of tshuva, but where was the tshuva? Where was the thought of repentance? In their heart. They didn't speak about me doing something wrong by fighting Moshe. They didn't tell it to anybody. Nobody knew B'chlal that this group is actually not joining anymore. They kept silent, while thinking that this is not right, and while regretting getting involved. But their approach was not action, not even verbalizing it, not confessing in public, not trying to stop the public of going Meshuggah. They're just in their own mind. This doesn't make sense. We cannot fight. Moshe is right. So Rashi says, since their tshuva was the type of tshuva which was that nobody knows about it, right? Matter of fact, as far as people are concerned, they are still fighting, right? Nobody knows that they are out of it. They're still fighting. So therefore, their punishment was also measure for measure. Meaning, what does measure for measure mean? Measure for measure means that in a what's it called? In a practical way, you are in the ground, right? Everybody sees you in the ground, but after being in the ground, ultimately you survive. Just like you behave, that in your heart you're doing tshuva, but practically you are rebelling. But also the tshuva, also the punishment is a type of punishment which you're not gonna die, but you're gonna know about it. Nobody else is gonna know about it. Even you, in your own physical appearance, you're going to be under the same cover of earth, just like the rest of the family, because you only kept it to yourself. In other words, in general, punishment, when we speak about punishment, the Mishnah tells us in Sota that the way punishment works many times is midah keneged midah. It's the way you behave in the negative behavior, you are impacting the same type of, for example, it talks about the Sota, which is the source where it's being discussed, is that this woman who is getting punished for your immoral behavior begins to be affected in the body, but that part of the body which she originally was involved in in performing the sin. It goes gradually from part to part until she explodes. But where does it start? It has to start somewhere. You can start by having a headache. You can start by affecting your hand. But the Gemara says it starts where the sin began taking place, because that's how God works, measure for measure. It's like a consequence.
It's like leprosy, isn't it?
No, it's not leprosy.
I mean, divine leprosy.
Oh, the idea is divine, obviously, but the punishment is a practical punishment.
Like if you don't give tzedakah, and then the person loses his wealth, but he needs tzedakah. He didn't give tzedakah, so it's a measure.
In other words, it's almost like a consequence. There's a difference between a punishment and a consequence. If I go over to a pot of hot water lying on the stove and I touch it and I burn my finger, was I punished for touching the hot water, the hot pot, or it's the natural consequence for touching the hot pot? You touch something hot, so you burned yourself. It's not a side thing. You touch this, and therefore you're going to get something else. This is resulting directly in the action you do. And that's actually what happened. That's why the kid of Korach, because their tshuva, as Rashi says, and the Talmud says, it was only in their heart. So therefore, their punishment was also in a way that in a revealed manner, openly, everybody saw them getting punished. Internally and secretly, they actually survived. But here, maybe it will help us to understand the bigger question that really bothers everybody. Why are we waiting till Pinchas to tell us this amazing part of Korach's children's survival? Imagine, I know somebody in our community who is not going to be Pinchas in shul. He's not. He's going on vacation. He was on Korach. He's not going to be Chukas. It's not going to be Bolok. It's probably not going to be Pinchas. He comes back at the Shabbos after Pinchas, Matis. But by the way, there are many Jewish kids, unfortunately, including my own kids, that they don't know the story of Korach as good as they know the story of Shmot. And you know why? Because they have summer camp. Exactly. But they never have a chance to really study it properly. After they get more matured and they stop going to camp and they come to regular minyan or regular services, they find out, ooh, what's that story all about? I never heard that, right? Because you were never in shul. You were always playing basketball in the mountains. People are vacationing.
So they don't teach them.
They try, but the year only has that amount of months from a 365 days.
So they don't Shabbat.
Huh?
So they don't Shabbat.
So,
They-
but it's not school. So they are obviously good. They go to shul, full service. They even have 2 hours a day of studying. But in school, they have 7 hours of study. So from Gemara, from Chumash, from
Deeper.
Parsha,
Deeper.
but not only deeper, just time wise. If they only have 2 hours, so how much they study? I'm not saying they don't know it all, but they don't know it in the way they know in the details this parshiyot that they are growing up in school, starting from preschool. Anyway, so if somebody is not going to be in shul Pinchas, you ask them, you meet them a week later, Tisha B'Av in shul, tell me, what happened to Korach's kids? So I remember they died. When were you in shul last? Shabbos Korach. Was he wrong or right?
He was
Right? As far as his knowledge, which stops a Parsha's Korach, they die. If he would have come 3 weeks later, we'll find that they didn't. So I'm asking, and everybody should ask this question. Why did the Torah wait? In other words, it's not something which is happening in Pinchas. What happens in Pinchas? Why are the names even mentioned? They talk about getting everybody ready, take a census, in order to know how to split Eretz Israel, who tribe gets what. Somehow, Dosan Abiram was mentioned. By the way, those are the ones who fought against Mordechai together with Korach. And by the way, you should know Korach's kids did not die. Oh, now you're telling it to me. I already mourned them. I made a kiddush in their honor. I already said Shiva. I can tell you this week, I'm going to say names, obviously. One night this week, the beginning of the week, I was called to someone's house after midnight. And they were sure that the person who didn't feel that well died. Okay? That's it. That's what I was told. Personally. That's why I left my house after 12 o'clock at night to go be with the family. They have a dead in the family. I saw the emergency truck leaving the house. The family remained. Some family went to the hospital. Some family is in the house, crying, throwing themselves on the floor. So now I'm the rabbi. That's my job. 12 o'clock, my phone. I read, and I'm trying to ask: did the doctor say that the person passed away? They were trying to give a checks and this and that. Answer my question. Did the doctor say that she died? And again, the same answer. Not breathing. It was over. I called the hospital. Doctors are still trying to do something. The person today was moved out from the emergency room to a recovery room, from the ICU floor to a what's it called? To a recovery room. Yes. I don't know. I'm not saying no names. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I was up all night. I think it was Sunday night. We was up all night because back and forth. So imagine if I would be with the family, like a normal rabbi does, an hour, calm them down, give them instructions, tell them, listen, it's 1 o'clock in the morning now, I'm going home. And tomorrow we will arrange whatever needs to be arranged, I'm going home. And I would go home, telling myself, Mr. Whatever so-and-so is out, tomorrow we're going to have to get to work, organize a funeral, a shiva. But meantime, I can have a couple hours of sleep, right? Instead, I stayed longer to try to figure out what happens till when I happens to be, I had to go to the airport 5 o'clock in the morning to get my son. So anyway, it was over. I couldn't, it was no more. It was no sleeping at all. But that's the story which happens to me here. I walk away from Parsha's Korach. I don't come to Parsha's Pinchas. And in my mind, Korach's kids are dead. One time I come to Shul Pinchas by mistake or whatever, and I suddenly come and I'm following the reading and I say, oops, Loi Mesu. What's going on? Did they, didn't they? So this is a question which the commentaries are asked. There is a book I called a lot of times. Now I took it home. It's called the Shach. Shach is a student of the Ari. Shabtai Cohen. He was from the Ari student. And he says that really, we know that they died, that they didn't die. But since Moshe, remember when we started our class tonight, who is asking for that new phenomenon of death? Who created the soul? Moshe tells Hashem, come on, we got to do it right this time. We got to confirm that you are the one who's sending me. I don't want to deal with that for the next 40 years. Let's make it clear. So what does Moshe say? That when there is going to be this new phenomenon, and they and all theirs are going to be swallowed in the ground, that's going to be the sign that God sent me. So the Shach al-Torah, this rabbi, the student of the Ari, says, the reason the Torah didn't want to write us in Korach because it would have been disrespectful to Moshe. You asked Hashem, everybody should die. What ended up being, not everybody dies. Imagine if the verse would say, right, that they didn't die, it would have been too an open statement. But it really is very difficult to take this answer. The Rebbe asked this question on the Shach. The Rebbe says, saying that Korach's kids did not die is not contradicting Moshe's prayer, let there be this new phenomenon and be them swallowed in the ground. Because practically his prayer was accepted. Everybody was swallowed. But after being in the ground, like the Gemara says, suddenly this new kind of hill took place in Gehenna, and they survived. Rabbi Moshe would be very happy. God listened to me, and Moshe wants people to do tshuva. So why does the Chumash wait till here? So the Rebbe says something very interesting. First, it says in the Parsha's Korach, it says, let's go back to the verse. It says, Vayerdu aim. Let's go back to the verse that we read earlier. The way they were swallowed. Here, on verse 33. Vayerdu aim vekol asher loem. They and all that was theirs descended, Chaim Shoilo, descended alive to the pit. Vatechas aleim ha'oretz, and what happened then? The earth covered them, right? And what is the next three words? Vayoivdu mitoich hakol. What does vayoivdu mean? And they were lost from among the congregation. What is the idea? And they were lost from among the congregation. They were lost. What's the emphasis? Mitoich hakol. They were lost, or they were lost from the face of the earth. What is from the congregation emphasizing?
Separation.
The answer is that they were only lost from the congregation, from that congregation. Meaning that congregation, which watched them participating in the revolt. And they did not see them repenting because, as we said earlier, the repentance only took place in their heart. So from that congregation, they had to be lost. But there would have been another congregation which did not see them revolting against Moshe. There's no reason for them to get lost. Right? It's only from that particular congregation that we have to make sure that they are getting lost. So that's the reason that it doesn't say Korach's kids did not die, right? Because only after that congregation, which was at the time of Korach, right? That congregation, which was at the time of Korach, were able to come out of their places, and then they saw, oops, Korach did not die. So it was only a discovery which came later, not at the time when it happened. Just a second. What? No. There is actually a Gemara. The Gemara says in Baba Basra, there was a sage with the name of Rabbi Babar Chana. You know, strange meeting with an Arab merchant, which shows them all kinds of crazy things. One of the things this Arab merchant shows them, he says, you want to see Korach and his family? What is that? And he showed them, here, this is a pit in the ground. He takes a piece of cloth, puts it on a stick, sticks it into the ground, takes it out, and he says, you see, hocus pocus, that was a clean piece of material, and now there is signs of burns of the same material, because there's a fire down there. This is the place of Gehenna. And now I'll go put you here, and you're going to hear what's going on there. He put it here, and here people are saying the following. The Gemara said, he say, Moshe emes, v'terasoi emes, ve'onu bada'im. Moshe is truth, the Torah is truth, and we are the liars, we are the fools. And that's what's going on. So this Arab, which apparently was some higher presentation in dress like an Arab, was kind of indicating to him that, not telling him basically, this is the Korach, and every month they have they keep on refreshing the song every month of Moshe Emes v'Teras Emes. That's their punishment. That they realize now that Moshe is true, and they have to keep on mentioning it. But this is not these kids. These kids that we speak about left the ground. They became later servants in the temple, in the Mishkan. They walked out of the ground. They are not the Chevra. They are not the same group which, but what does it show us? I know it's getting late. So but the important thing is that in Parsha Pinchas, the children of Korach are mentioned in the same content of Dasan and Aviram, right? Dasan and Aviram. And the question is, and also only because we mentioned Dasan and Aviram, that's why the Pasuk says that Korach didn't die, etc. But the question is, why is it if they are compared to Dasan and Aviram, if they are compared to Dasan and Aviram, so then they should have the same ending as Dasan and Aviram. If not, so why are they mentioned together? And Rashi says exactly that point. As far as instigating the revolt, we all know who the big instigators were, Datan and Abiram. And as far as instigators, they also joined Datan and Abiram. The children of Korach, they were They were the ones who initiated this whole Meshugas. But nevertheless, because they had a ton of tshuva, they escaped the pit to the point that we have Samuel the prophet and many other groups of Kohanim and Levim coming out from this family. And the obvious lesson from this story is the power of repentance is, even a thought of repentance. They can transform and take you from one place to a whole new location. You have these two children of Korach who are beginning in the worst possible place that you can imagine. They are part of sin. They're causing others to sin. They're instigators. They're instigators for revolt against Moses, against God. And they do tshuva. The tshuva is not such a tshuva, right? Not such a great tshuva. It's in their heart. And practically they are still in the midst of those who fight Moshe. But nevertheless, because of that single thought of tshuva, they were able to escape the punishment. And even while they're already in Gehenna, they're already in the fire, they are able to sit there in a tranquil manner, sitting on a little hill and waiting for this whole thing to be over, to the point that later they are included in Tehillim, chapter 86, Livnei Korach, Mizmor Shir, a song for the children of Korach, becomes a part of Tehillim. How much more so? And it comes now in the last moments of our Vida exile, my man, that after all the Torah and all the mitzvahs, because the Rambam at the end, every single Jew is going to have tshuva. And that is going to bring them to immediate redemption. And what kind of tshuva? So obviously we see from here that the Rebbe points out a thought of tshuva, a hiru tshuva, a proper thought of tshuva, and also bring them to that experience of survival and liberation and ultimate redemption by the coming of Mashiach, just like Korach kids survived. That's one of the short little insights into the story of Korach. Hope you enjoyed it, like I did.
Yes,
you.
thank you very
Thank you,
much.
David.
Deb.
Thank you. Can I remind, I see you on the class, Eliyahu. Eliyahu, where do you live, Eliyahu?
I live in Des Moines.
Des Moines, Washington?
Yes,
That's Alfred.
yes.
Very nice, welcome.
Thank
How
you.
far is Des Moines from here? To Quilla?
It's close.
Sometime you should come
Aquila,
visit us
yes.
sometime. You
Yes, I
should
would
come
love to
visit
come.
us sometime.
Yes, I will.
What?
Yes, yes. What was your
What's
question?
your last name, Eliyahu?
Soto, S-O-T-O.
I said, what's your
Soto.
last name?
Soto.
Eliyahu Sotel?
Okay. It's Soto.
How do you spell Soto?
S-O-T-O.
Soto.
Yes, Soto.
Very
From
nice.
Spain. From Spain.
Oh, Spain. Very nice. Muchas gracias. How do you say
Yes.
in Spanish? Thank you.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
You said that all right. I would like to meet you soon. I'm
Bezrat
gonna make an appointment to see you and to talk to you too.
Hashem. Thank God. Now, I just want to tell you, everybody, that for the next 3 weeks, till the end of July, there's not going to be a Wednesday class
Okay.
because David Schneider is going away.
Okay.
And we're going to get together, God willing, the Wednesday before Rosh Chodesh Av.
Okay.
Last Wednesday, it's really going to be, I think, the first, the first Wednesday in August, no? We'll let you
Okay.
know. Just check the emails, okay? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
All
Rabbi.
the best. Bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Very welcome. You're very welcome. Let's see, how do I get out from here?
No, you have to go away.
Ti dam. Oy, oy, oy.